Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's edition of HR Learning Mentorship Series. Our colleague Oluwatoyin Sonny is supposed to do this, but she's unavoidably absent, so I'll be filling in for her. And the topic of our session for tonight is what strategic HR leaders do differently. What strategic HR leaders do differently. Now, in my brief experience as an HR practitioner and also as an organizational leader, I've either had maybe the CEO, the chairman, or a board member, or a management team tell another management member, you are not strategic, you are not thinking strategically, you are not acting strategic. Sometimes you hear such statements like, okay, this idea you have brought forward, what makes it strategic? At the end of this session tonight, we are going to have better insights around strategy and how it affects HR and what HR leaders do differently. All right. Of course, we'll be encouraged to share our own thoughts and ask questions as we will get to the end of this session. Now, what is strategic HR? In the chat box, please, in your own words, as simple as possible, just type in the chat box what's your understanding of strategic HR, what it means. All right, so from our slides, strategic human resource management is a process that helps the human resource department, okay, maximize the potential of its workforce. Now, pay attention. So there's a department called HR. All the employees in the organization are also human resources, but there's also a department called HR. So when we are talking about strategic human resources management, we are looking at, one, how the HR department will maximize the potential of the employees, the human resources, the workforce. Now, there are several tools that we use. Strategic planning, okay, talent management, leadership development, organizational design, performance management, and so on and so forth. So these are some of the tools that we use. HR managers, okay, play a critical role in ensuring that the organization has the right people that will help improve the business performance and ensure that it delivers on its mission. So to be a strategic HR leader, it is important to understand the goals and objectives of the organization. So first and foremost, let me say this clearly. Some of you might have heard me say this before. You cannot have an HR strategy if there is no organizational strategy. If you are taking notes, please write this down. You cannot have an HR strategy if you don't have an organizational strategy. So imagine that you go for a job interview, an HR role to be specific, and then they ask you that, what HR strategies would you put in place when you get to this organization, when you resume, when you join us? For me, the first thing is I will find out and understand the organizational strategy. Because if you don't find out and understand the organizational strategy, there is no way you will know which HR strategies, which combination will work. So HR strategy is an appendage of the organizational strategy. That's why, for example, copy and paste from organization A to organization B may not work. You may deploy some strategies in company A and take exactly the same strategy to company B and it won't work. There is nothing wrong with the strategy. It is the alignment or misalignment with the organizational strategy. And if we don't have a good understanding of the organizational strategy, we will what? We will struggle. We will struggle with identifying the HR strategies that will be appropriate and that will add value. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I have Toyin Sonny. If you are there, do me a favor, put on your video. I'll take 1 or 2 slides and hand over to you. If you are there, please put on your video. Again, strategic HR, okay, strategic HR leaders create value by achieving competitive advantage. We have started using style to define what strategy is. Strategy helps an organization move from point A to point B, from one milestone to another milestone, from one market share target to another market share target. So maybe today we have 2 million customers. Our strategic goal could be to move to 5 million customers. What are the HR activities involved? How does HR come in to move us from 2 million market share to 5 million market share? If today our revenue is 100 million per quarter, and we want to move to 500 million per quarter, what is the activity? What are the initiatives? What are the steps that HR must take that will be complementary to help the organization move from 100 million naira per quarter to 500 million naira per quarter? Strategic HR leaders create value by achieving competitive advantage. For who? The organization's customers. For who? The organization's shareholders. For who? For the employees and all the stakeholders. Are we together? So HR strategy is tied to what? Organizational strategy. Now, follow me, because once you get this foundation, then we've achieved our aim for today. HR strategy is focusing on the future business of the company. HR strategy has to do with foresight. Strategy has to do with the future. But strategy also has to do with connecting our activities today so that we can arrive at a desirable future. So you cannot have HR strategy if you cannot see into a foreseeable future, short-term, medium-term, long-term. Strategy has little to do with the past. It has to do with our destination, our vision, our goals, what we need to do to help the organization achieve that vision. Now, when we are thinking about the future, there are 2 sides to it. Where are we going? That's one side. The other side, the things we are doing today, how would they help us get to that desirable future? And this is where HR strategy is distinct from HR administration. HR administration, generally speaking, are the day-to-day operational issues, topics, and conversations. Now, I will say this clearly to this audience and anyone that will listen to the recording. Please, HR administration is not petty. HR administration is not irrelevant. In fact, no matter the beauty of your strategic plans, if you don't have a robust and articulate, a consistent HR administration, the strategy will fail. So, as HR professionals, don't just say, oh, I'm strategic HR, and look at HR operations, for example, and other aspects of HR as irrelevant. In fact, all the other domains of HR are an integral part of HR strategy, either by providing input or by helping with execution of the strategy when it is consummated. So at the point of developing HR strategy, after we have understood fully the organizational strategy, and by the way, let me also say this, at the point of developing and development of the organizational strategy, all things being equal, HR's input should be part and parcel of it. HR's input should be an integral part of it. Emphasis on all things equal. I'm aware that on this call tonight, there are people from different tiers of organizations. Some working one-man businesses, multinationals, and so on and so forth. In some organizations, HR has a seat at the table. So when we are even developing the organizational strategy, HR is part of it. And that is the best state. That is the most ideal state. Because if you are part of shaping the organizational strategy, coming up with HR strategy to enable, crystallize the organizational strategy becomes more seamless and more easy. Because at the point of developing the organizational strategy, you will have been applying your HR mind to it. You will have been thinking, remunerating, and providing solutions softly as we go. So I just wanted to point that out, that HR strategy and HR administration work hand in hand. If you just think, oh, you are strategic, the operational people will frustrate you, make a mess of the HR strategy. If you don't pick the brains of all the stakeholders in HR, even before you come up with the HR strategy itself, you will not have the required buy-in. Okay, now let's look at this. HR strategy refers to, I'm taking the time to define this concept, because once we get it, we are good to go. Okay? A company's HR strategy refers to all people-related approaches, all right, that addresses both the strategic business challenges and purpose. Now, let's take a breather here. Let's take a breather here. Look at this definition carefully. Look at this definition carefully. Strategic business what? Challenge. So which means organizations, as we know, have problems. Some problems are what? Strategy. Some problems are not strategy. The organization also has a purpose. Okay? What is our intention? Why were we created? Why were we incorporated? What problems were we set up to solve? Okay? Now, what are we supposed to do in order to strengthen our company's competitive advantage? I would like to be sure that you can hear me. Ladies and gentlemen, just say yes if you can hear me in the chat box. Just type yes in the chat box if you can hear me. Okay, now an HR strategy defines how all the critical approaches are aligned to the structural and cultural context. Now pay attention. An organization is an entity. Some of the key areas in the structural context of an organization, for example, our organogram. What's the hierarchy? What's the flow of tasks from one department to the other? What are the reporting lines? These are some of the things that are part of the what? Structure. Now, when you are coming up with your HR strategy, you must have your structure in mind, your existing structure. Sometimes you may come up with an HR strategy that may necessitate an adjustment or an amendment to your structure. Sometimes your structure may be okay, but in formulating the strategy, you must ensure that the current structure has the potency to drive it, has the capacity to drive it. Another dynamic is what? Cultural context. Cultural context. What do we mean by culture? I know everybody on this call, almost everybody on this call must have had this phrase before. It's now one of the business lingos, one of the business cliches. They say that culture is strategy for breakfast. I'll reiterate it for emphasis. Culture is strategy for breakfast, which means if your culture is in a certain way and your strategy does not align with the culture, or you don't adjust your culture to be fit for the strategy will not work. There's nothing wrong with the strategy, there's nothing wrong with the culture, but the strategy and the culture does not align. Now let's put everything together again. Why strategy in the first place? Strategy is to give us competitive advantage. What is competitive advantage? Anything that can help us achieve our goal. Anything that can help us move from point A to point B. Anything that can help us increase our revenue, our profitability, our market share. Anything that can help us improve the dividends to our shareholders. What is strategy? Strategy is anything you do to move the organization forward. Anything you do to take the organization to the next level. Now, when people say we are not strategic, sometimes, and I'm saying this with all due respect, some of the people telling HR that we are not strategic actually don't understand what strategy is. Because if they understood what strategy is, they won't tell us we are not strategic. They can say, oh, we don't like this strategy, or we don't understand this strategy, or can this strategy be adjusted? You see, strategy may look like big grammar or big English word, but strategy is whatever you need to do to move from point A to point B. And that tells us that a strategy, for example, can be a very simple thing. It doesn't have to be complex, doesn't have to be complicated. Let me give you one or two examples quickly. I used to, way back in one of my past lives, I used to work in an organization. Now, that organization did not want, please pay attention to this illustration, did not want members of staff to be coming late to work. One. Two, they wanted members of staff to start working quickly and be productive. Guess what the HR introduced in the organization? HR introduced free breakfast. Now, the organization works from 8 to 5 p.m. every day. Guess the time of the breakfast? 7 to 7:30. After 7:30, you can't get breakfast again. Guess what? In 1 year, many staff don't even come late even once. Guess what? 90 to 95% of the staff get to the office between 7 and 7:30. Why? So that they can eat breakfast. Guess what? After they've eaten their breakfast, between 7:30 and 8, many of them start to work. Even from the breakfast, people begin to engage with their colleagues to say, oh, I sent you one mail yesterday, you've not treated it. Oh, we had this conversation yesterday. The breakfast, even though it's not during work hours, became informal work time. It began to improve the what? Collaboration, innovation, and results of the organization. Now, if I tell you that HR strategy is to introduce breakfast, in the context I've painted it, can you see that it's a beautiful strategy? In the same organization, they introduce lunch between 1 and 2. Guess what? Many people who hitherto used to go out for lunch now became a composite of the time to commute to the place they will eat, the time they will spend eating, and the time to commute back to the office. Can you see that? Time to the eating place, time to eat, and time back. Guess what? By providing lunch on premise, the company eliminated time to commute to the eating place and time to commute back, saving almost 30 minutes for the organization on a daily basis. Now, because the organization provided the lunch place, employees midday eat in the same enclosure, they rub minds, they engage, they follow up on projects, on tasks and assignments, and it improves productivity. So if I tell you again that lunch can be an HR strategy, do you get where I'm coming from? So in other words, almost anything can be a strategy, as long as you can show us how that approach, how that initiative, how that program will help the organization get competitive advantage. I want to put it to some of us on this call tonight that we have great HR strategies. Some of us, our issue is not being able to eloquently articulate and connect the dots between what we are doing and the top line. between what we are doing and the bottom line. You cannot be prolific in HR strategy if you do not understand some elements of business. You must have basic appreciation, for example, of finance. Basic. I'm not saying you should know everything, but at least you understand cash flow, you understand the profit or loss, you understand the rudiments of balance sheet, so that anytime you are proposing any HR program, you can tie it to the competitive advantage. And when I say HR program, so that you get it, if we are hiring more staff, you must be able to show how it will give us competitive advantage. If you are proposing that you give us competitive advantage, so it is possible to hire more staff and it's not going to give us competitive advantage. It is possible to hire staff and it will give us competitive advantage. It is possible we lay off staff and it will give us competitive advantage. It is also possible that we lay off staff and it will not give us competitive advantage. Ladies and gentlemen, are you with me? So HR strategy can be a combination of any of the HR programs, from training and employee relations and a disciplinary process, remuneration, compensation, benefits, career development, and the combination. So at the end of the day, you will see that when we come up with our HR strategy, we may have maybe 4 or 5 top line items. And each of these 4 or 5 top line items, those 4 or 5 will be like our key result area for that year or for that window. But to achieve each of these 4 or 5, there will be multiple HR initiatives running concurrently, running in alignment with each other. So don't forget competitive advantage. What we create competitive advantage in company A, industry A, may be different from company B, industry B. The approaches required in company A, industry A, may be different from company B, industry B. So I will recap. A company's HR strategy refers to all people-related approaches that addresses both strategic business challenges and purpose in order to strengthen a company's competitive advantage. HR strategy defines all critical structural and cultural contexts. So one of the central areas of HR strategy is alignment. Alignment. So that we are not just doing things for doing sake. Imagine, for example, you want to send staff on training in 2024. Trainings that will impact on the business in 2024. Please, which month or quarter of the year should most of the training run? I'm looking out for your comments and thoughts on the chat box. And if you also want to speak, you can raise your hands so that you can speak. Fantastic, fantastic. I've gotten like 4 or 5 feedback already, and I'm excited at the feedback. A lot of people have clearly said we should do the trainings, most of the trainings in Q1, because if we have identified the training gap, and we know that this training gap we have identified is going to give the, if we resource the training gap, what will happen to us? The organization will have competitive advantage. When do we want the competitive advantage? Almost immediately. So anytime from what? January. So I put it to us that as HR, if we are strategic, maybe 50 to 75% of our trainings for the year in focus should be in Q1 or Q2. By Q4, training should be going down. And if you are doing trainings in Q4, technically, the trainings in Q4 will be to position the employees and the organization for the next year's strategic intention. So when you are pushing, late last year, we are encouraging us, let's work on our budget, let's work out. Now, let's assume we've worked on our budget. This is the time to go and collect your budget, in quotes. Collect, ask for your money, start deploying the training while it is hot. Because if you do the training in October, somebody will come and ask you that the training we did in 2024, we didn't see the return on investment. One of the reasons why we didn't see the return on investment is we did not do the training on time. And by the time we did the training, there is like a learning curve. So if you do the training, for example, in February, give or take 2 to 3 months as a learning curve, by the time you get to June, the improvement in productivity will translate to more revenue, more profitability. And by the time we are asking for the other year that let's go on training, we'll be able to justify. Ladies and gentlemen, I just use training as an example. So which means training can be both operational and can be what? Strategic. If we have strategic understanding, then when and how we will deploy the training will now matter. Because we know that if we do the training in Q4, it has become what? An operational or an administrative activity. But if we deploy it in January, we have turned it to a strategy. Now, apart from training, that's just one example. Just one example. Some of the strategic management tools. Okay, actions are taken by organization to meet customers' need. Now, I like this particular phrase because it shows that we, the HR, we have 2 customers. Please pay attention. We are speaking strategically right now. The first customer of HR, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm about to say may be slightly radical, but if you get it, you are broken through. The first customer of HR is actually the customer of the business. That is the first customer of HR, the customer of the business. Then the second category of customer of HR are the employees. I'm going somewhere. You can say that the first customer of HR are the employees, while the second customer of HR are the customers of the business. I say no. The first customer of HR are actually what? The customers. The second customer are the employees. What do I mean? So that anytime you are trying to equip, empower, provision your employee, you are doing it with the customers in mind. So if you have your sales team and then you look at your customer and you say that your customers relatively are VIPs, then it will make sense to you that your sales team must have good cars for marketing. Because you have thought about your customer, first of all, before you came to your employee, then you will know that how should your employees be dressing. You will know, should you be paying your core employees peanuts, and you want them to serve this caliber, this category of employees. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking strategic HR. So actions are taken by the organization, by HR, to meet the customer's need. Again, policies and procedures used to manage the organization. You will look at it critically. Don't forget that strategy is connecting us to our future, not our past. Strategy is taking us from point A to point B. So sometimes the money you don't have, you will spend it to take us to the next level. We have money now, we can't do training. That is the reason why we need the training. In fact, the reason we don't have money is that we didn't do training at the right time in previous windows. Now, let us do it now so that we won't be in the same position this time next year. What policies? So our policies, are they catering to our past or to our future? our procedures mirroring our past to our future. And I want to ask on the chat box, and be honest now, I'm not talking about your organization, just speak based on your general knowledge in nature. Most companies' policy and procedures, does it cater to the past or future? So I just need a one-word answer from you, past or future. I'm not asking you what ought to be. I'm saying from your experience, from what you've heard, most organizations' policies and procedures, does it speak to the future or to the past? Again, most people build their policies based on what has happened in the past, not based on where they are going, based on the mistakes that has been made, not based on the opportunities they are trying to unlock. Strategic thinking means that we must think differently. You see, when you are looking at a situation, when you are looking at circumstances, when you are looking at resources or lack of it, when you are thinking strategically, the way you will take problems will be different. I'll give one or two examples again. You know, some of these conversations, when we use examples, it brings it to life. You know, we're not just talking theory. Now, real life example. Baum mentioned the organization. So there was a particular organization I worked. A particular staff made a mistake. I'm talking about 8 years ago. The monetary value of the mistake was 2 million naira. Now, this mistake was a mistake made in good faith. This mistake was not, this is not fraud. I'm not talking about fraud or integrity. Her and my MD, we sat down. You know, of course, we had issued query. The guy had faced disciplinary action. And we had options. One of the options was to terminate the guy. Guess what my MD told me? My MD said, Oluyemi, what if we had sent this guy to Lagos Business School? We could have well as paid this money for training. This mistake that he has made, if we release him now and we lay him off and he goes, do you know that we'll never make this mistake again? Who will be the beneficiary? The new organization that is going to go and join. Because just because we have sacked him doesn't mean, yeah, he will suffer, he may struggle for a few days or weeks or months, but he will get by. Said, let us take this as what? As investment in training. Guess what? We retained the guy. The guy doubled his commitment to the organization. He worked like he was indebted to the organization. And a lot of positives came out of it. If we didn't look at the situation from a strategic decision, we will have focused on the loss of 2 million naira and laid off the staff. What will have happened? We will have lost the 2 million naira anyway, and we will have lost the staff. Guess what? Over the space of 2-3 years, the guy, because he had wisened up, made a lot of savings for the organization and brought a lot of income for the organization. And over time, he made the money back. That is strategic disciplinary management. So you will see that strategic HR management is a philosophy, is a way of what thinking, is a way of viewing situations, circumstances at the workplace. Ladies and gentlemen, strategic HR management tools. Processes are used to produce goods or services. Marketing activities are used to sell products and services. In strategic HR management, we use data to take decisions. You see, strategic HR is not a mushy, it's not a feeling like, it's not like I like Oluyemi Adeosun or I like Victoria Abimbola. No, we use data. So when you are doing promotion, we use data. When we are doing rewards and recognition, we use data. When we are doing any HR initiative, we use data. So when HR is submitting a proposal, I'll give an example. End of year party, something as mundane, as pedestrian as that, you will use data. For example, all the 2, 3, 4, 5 last end of year party, how much did we spend? What were the benefits and outcomes of those end of year party? Did it engender conviviality? Did it engender collaboration, innovation? We must extract data, both qualitative and quantitative. We must think, because when you say we should do TGIF, thank God it's Friday. Not only must we show us the cost, you must show us the revenue. You must show us the ideas. You must show us how wastage will be eliminated. You must show us how innovation will be battered. You must show us how ideas and cross-fertilization of ideas. We use data in strategy. Strategy doesn't operate with gut feeling. No. You got to analyze. You got to crunch numbers. And let me quickly say this to this distinguished audience tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't believe that there's anybody that doesn't have basic appreciation for analysis. And by that, I mean, I don't believe there's anybody here who doesn't like mathematics. Somebody just shot that when I mentioned the word mathematics. I put it to you that it is the way some of our teachers taught us mathematics that made us have a disdain for mathematics and want to carry it into HR. We don't want to be analyzing. For those of us that entered bus in Lagos or in any part of the country, either in the past or in the current, if you don't understand or appreciate mathematics, when you enter bus and you give them 200 naira and they are supposed to give you 50 naira change and they give you 20 naira, how do you know they are giving you the wrong change? If you can know that your change is not accurate, then you understand mathematics. Let me give you some other mathematics. Very simple thing. If I come to your wardrobe in your home right now, in your house right now, most likely if you're a neat and organized person, your suits will be together, your boxers will be together, your sportswear will be together, your office clothes will be together, your religious apparel will be together. That is mathematics. Collect like terms. So when we are talking about using data for HR management tools, you need to collect like terms. What are the people problems? Collect like terms. What are the people opportunities? Collect like terms. I'll give you an example. Something I did somewhere very recently. I did an analysis with my HR colleagues of where all the where all the employees were living in Lagos. Guess what? We identified clusters of employees living in certain areas. Do you know that some of the staff, they knew each other, but they didn't know where they were living? Then we sent a mail to staff to say, you guys, so you are all living along this area. Guess what happened from that day? There were staff who had vehicles and staff who were up in bus. The staff who had vehicles were greeting the staff up in bus. They didn't know where they were living. HR was sitting on residential data. Note, we didn't share specific details to say number 22 Ikorodu Road. We just mentioned the plot areas. By releasing that data without being granular and circulating it to the relevant stakeholders. So if 8 people were living in the same area, we will send mail to only those 8 people. We got them to know they were living in the same axis. Guess what? We collapsed their transport for some of them. Guess what? Some people who are getting to work, having to up 2, 3 buses, were now going in AC cars. Guess what? Even though they were now joining each other, some work conversations and interactions are started. By that data, do you notice that the organization did not spend any money? Yes, you can take it to another level. For example, if you wanted to make provision for staff bus, you could also use that data to know the bus route. But I'm saying today that the data you already have, you currently have, if only you are strategic, you can unlock more information. You can unlock more value for the employees. You can unlock more value, and you will drive employee engagement. You will drive employee commitment. You will drive collaboration. You will drive innovation. Are we together? Strategic HR tools. Ladies and gentlemen, when you are strategic, okay, like John Moradeyo said, he says strategy is a function of mathematical thought. Absolutely. You captured what I was saying well. Franca says, wow, broad location information. Exactly. Let me see what else I have here. Victoria says, data can't be taken away from HR strategic planning. Exactly. And I'm trying to tell us, ladies and gentlemen, you already have the data and you are sitting on the data. Question is, are you putting it together? Are you remunerating over it? Strategic HR tools, our organizational structure, the way it is today, is it serving the organization? When I say is it serving the organization, I'm not talking about is it serving the MD. I'm not talking about is it serving the board. I am talking about is it serving the customers? Is it serving, do we need to make some departments trimmer, more flat? Do we need to make some departments more structured, maybe due to regulatory risk perspective? Again, technology is used to support business processes. We have access to technology today, some for free. I'll mention some. It may not sound like technology to you, but WhatsApp is a tool many organizations today are using and you can use to drive collaboration, to drive information, communication, and so on and so forth. So general people issues such as recruitment, selection, training, compensation, benefit, performance management, and so on and so forth. Strategic HR management also looks at legal requirements and regulations affecting the organization. I hope that you are fully aware that if you reach any key regulatory standard, your organization can be locked down. Your license can be withdrawn. You may not be able to win certain contracts. And there are so many. So HR today cannot stand aloof. If, for example, you are a PLC, there are certain internal and external audits that should be done. You must be part and parcel of it. Are we together? If your organization, you are ISO certified, for example, there are some contracts that you can't bid for if you don't have certain government permits, if you don't have certain certifications. It is part of HR to ensure that you collaborate with the relevant units in the organization or department that we are on track with pre-audit activities. You are on track post-audit activities. So that if there are corrective measures, those things can also form part of what? Performance management. So if you know we have certain critical certifications, though the renewal of those licenses and those certifications will form part and parcel of our what? Performance management system. Are we together? HR will integrate it because HR understands the business. HR understands the stakeholders, the regulatory powers, and how it can impact and affect us. Ladies and gentlemen, there are many benefits of strategic HR. And the first thing that I've tried to communicate tonight is that if you can think strategically, no matter how much resources, and when I say resources, both financial and material at your disposal, you will be able to do more with what you have. You'll be able to get more value. See, if they ask me today that what should anybody on this call increase, I will tell you your strategic capabilities. I joined one organization some few years back. It was a lean HR thing, and I was the head of HR. On resumption of office, day one, they told me, they said, Oga, I say yes. Say, Oluyemi, we need to hire 1 or 2 HR staff. I said, why didn't you guys hire before I came? They said, you are new and you are senior, you'll be able to get it. I thought to myself, yes, do I want to push to hire 1 or 2 HR persons? I said, not exactly. I said, let us check the existing employees in this organization. Do we have any redundancies anywhere? Ladies and gentlemen, because we are multi-branch in structure, I had 3 front desks. I asked for the files of those 3. Guess what? I found one of them that I wrote sociology. I reached out to her and said, hey, my sister, would you be interested in HR now in the future? I said, sir, I'm interested. I put her through some basic training. in 3 months, you won't believe the value this person was adding to the HR team. So some routine, repetitive tasks, for example, calling candidates, sourcing for CV, we quickly shifted to her. Anything that was routine and basic and not too confidential, we started shipping it to her. Strategic thinking. Who told you that your front desk, that the only thing they can do is to be welcoming customers or guests? Now, if you have 300 customers or 400 customers per day, no problem. But what if they are attending to only 15 and you will still pay them? And this same, what will happen to this front desk? With time, the person will become disgruntled. The person will tell you that the work is not challenging. And then the person's career progress will be stunted. But by the time you have loaded them with other complementary activity that they can add value to your organization, to the team, it will be easy for you to help them earn a raise, help them earn a promotion. If there are internal vacancies, because you have been utilizing their skills and capacity, they'll be able to grow. Strategic HR helps improve working culture. Strategic HR, because when anybody is doing anything, you must tie it to what? Strategy. Let me say this. HR should even be the one driving strategy in most organizations. I am fully aware that there are some organizations, they have a strategy unit or department, and it is okay. But let me put it to us that even if your organization has a strategy department or unit, HR must collaborate. You must make sure that that strategy unit or department does not understand the organizational strategy more than you, the HR. Then you must now know how do we resource it. Okay, John Morade says here that Paul Roma said, lack of technology transformation affects development. And HR strategy is a powerful tool to transform and bring expected outcome in a competitive sphere. Thank you so much. Paul Roma is an economist. Okay, HR strategy helps us achieve better rate of what? Customer satisfaction. You know, we've already identified that HR's first and primary customer is the client, and then the employees are the secondary customer. But because we want to satisfy our primary customers, the client or customers, we do everything for our secondary so that we make life meaningful. Then enhance productivity. You see, one thing is obvious, resources are scarce. No matter how rich you are, whether ask all our friends and colleagues who have jackpot to Canada, Australia, yes, they may be better off, but they still don't have all they need. And no matter what, we will need to always allocate resources. What determines how we allocate the resources? Our strategy, the organizational strategy, which is why we must focus on what? Corporate objective. Ladies and gentlemen, now, there are quite a number of tools that we can use in HR strategy. Some are very basic and fundamental. For example, I mentioned basic mathematical tools like collect like terms. Anytime you collect like terms, it brings clarity to a lot of things. Another tool, fortunately, is a very popular tool, is SWOT. SWOT. What is SWOT? SWOT is an acronym for strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. Now, when you do this SWOT analysis, you can do it alone as HR. You can also do it with the entire team or a cross-section of the entire team. So you pick a stakeholder from every department. Not only do you pick a stakeholder from every department, you also pick a stakeholder from senior and junior. Why? You don't want to have a blind spot. You don't want your strategy to be deficient. You know, sometimes people think it's only HODs that can contribute to strategy. If you put a driver or a cleaner on your strategy board, they may not say much, but they may say one or two things that you will have overlooked and would be provide competitive advantage. You can be shocked that your drivers who mingle and sit in driver's room with competition when you guys are bidding for projects may have certain intelligences that even your marketing staff may not have. So don't undermine any category, any caliber of employees or any cluster of employees when you are putting up your strategy. So when you do a SWOT analysis, you are not just looking at your past, you are looking at your current. You are not just looking at your current, you are looking at your future. What are our strengths? We want to identify our strengths so that we can continue to enhance it. You also want to look at our weakness. It could just be that it is our weaknesses that our competition are using to chance us. It may be our weakness into our market here. Then what are the opportunities? Ladies and gentlemen, when you are looking at the opportunities, it is to take immediate proactive action and cash in on it. Ladies and gentlemen, as strategic HR, this is not the time or season to say we want to do something in 2 years' time. It doesn't work. You see, there's something in marketing we call first to market. When you enter the market first, take MTN, for example, in the telecom sector. All the other telcos, they are playing catch up forever. Maybe they will catch up, maybe not. There's first to market. So what are the opportunities? As you are identifying the opportunities, you must also map out strategies to do what? To implement, to execute. My immediate past sector was oil and gas. By the time Emilio said subsidy is gone forever, guess what? That industry changed forever. Suddenly, PMS, which we call petrol, was no longer the most exciting or attractive thing on the burner. Suddenly, everybody started talking about gas. Everybody started talking about converting even some vehicle engines to gas. Guess what? Some oil and gas firms in the downstream sector had become aggressive with this gas 5 years ago, 8 years ago. Now, they probably have 200 gas stations nationwide. Some are just trying to build 5. Please, somebody with 5 and somebody with 202, would they be on the same pedestal? I agree. The person with 5 can grow to 200 someday. But don't think that the person who is on 202 will rest on their oars. Strategic thinking. When we are talking about strategic thinking, a strategic HR must be following what is happening in politics, what is happening in governance, what is happening globally, what is happening in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, what is happening between Israel, Hamas, and Palestine. You'll be following all these things. What is happening in rivers, what is happening in the Southeast. A strategic HR person will say, this problem in the East that we cannot open our office on Mondays. Can we start going to office on Sunday and turn Monday to a non-work day, but we convert Sunday to a work day, or convert Saturday to a work day, or do half day on Saturday, half day on Sunday? Strategic HR. You must look at what are our strategic problems, what are our strategic opportunities, and you do a SWOT. When you do this SWOT, you will see different options and components. After you have done the SWOT, what do? You now do ranking. You use weights. You use selection criteria. You may come up with 10 opportunities. Do you have resources to implement and execute the 10? Then, from a strategic perspective, you will now rank those opportunities. Strategic means which opportunity would you deploy, would you execute, and take you closer and faster to your goal. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll say that again. Let's say you come up with 10 opportunities when you do your SWOT. You will rank the 10 in order of strategic importance. How do we mean strategic importance? We're not talking about the most expensive to implement. We're not talking about the cheapest to implement. No, we are saying which one, such that if we implement it, it will take us closer and faster to our goals. Then you must identify your main goals, your main opportunities, and then you prioritize the execution. Do you need new employees to implement some of these things? Do you need new trainings for the existing employees? Do you need a new work model? maybe based on strategic thinking and where your industry and your organization is going, you may need to introduce hybrid work, hybrid, HYBR, maybe flexi. Why? From a strategic perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, some of our competition today, by tomorrow, you will have competition from unexpected quarters. Thinking strategic. Coca-Cola Global, in particular here, they were having a global retreat, with their main leaders. And the MD, the CEO of Coca-Cola back then, and I'm talking about the 70s now, it's not something recent, 70s, asked his team members, he said, who is our greatest competitor? Many of them said, oh, Pepsi, Pepsi, Pepsi. The MD said, no. Our greatest competitor is water. Strategic thinking. That how do we position Coke that when people are thirsty, they will think Coke, not water? I want to ask you, who is your competitor as a business? Who is your competitor as HR? Ladies and gentlemen, when you use a tool like SWOT, just chose to choose SWOT because it's simple and it's relatable. There are more sophisticated tools, so for all of us, ladies and gentlemen. So when you have tools like Power BI, there are some tools our accounts counterparts use. We too should ask for it. In my office, my immediate past organization, I had to ask them for Power BI. They didn't think it was something HR should have. Meanwhile, the organization had the license. They just didn't install it for HR. It didn't cost us new money. Power BI will help you run analysis. You'll be able to come up with what insights and so on and so forth. So when you have done your strategic analysis, you'll be able to come up with strategic opportunities, insights. Then you'll now be able to develop your KPIs or your KRAs. Okay, what kind of management development program do you need to put in place? Don't forget, we spoke about structure and culture. Your current HODs, your current senior people, the way they are wired may be closer to the past than to the future. Do you need to send them for executive training, in-house or external, so that their old ways of thinking and the culture based on their practice will not puncture the new strategy we are trying to deploy? How do you, for example, attrition? How do you tackle attrition? So some of the strategies will now include change management. Ladies and gentlemen, at this intersection, I need to say that based on my experience in HR, based on my experience in working for businesses and organizations, many people usually have good ideas. Many organizations usually have good policies and intentions. Guess the problem? The execution. If you can relate, please drop in the chat box. You will just see the MD will just say something like, HR, implement this thing immediately. I don't have data for this. I'm just speaking from my experience. 50% of things implemented immediately fails or is suboptimal. You can quote me, especially in Nigeria. I will say this again so that we can get it. 50% of things that we implement immediately either fails or produces suboptimal results. Don't get me wrong, I don't believe in procrastination. If I do, I won't be facilitating this seminar right away. You understand? I jumped into it, so to speak, unprepared. But all of my life, I've been living prepared. I'm using somebody else's slide to have this engagement with us tonight. Are there only 2 slides to it? Now, what is the problem with implement immediately? Immediate implementation does not take change management into consideration. I'll say it again. And we are wrapping up now so that we can take contributions, comments, questions from the house. I'm happy to announce, ladies and gentlemen, that we are exactly 100. Please stay on the call, because if you log out, you may find it challenging to come back. When you execute things with immediate effect, what happens to you? You don't make adequate provision for change management. Now, change management is another master class on its own. Fortunately, on my YouTube channel, Oluyemi Adeosun, you will see 1 or 2 sessions on change management. But let me just highlight, change management will be planning to execute, and trying to say, what kind of resistance are we going to meet on ground? What are the root causes of this resistance? What communication strategy do we need to put in place in advance, during, and after the execution of the new programs? Why will people resist the change we are trying to profile or produce? What are their concerns? Which of these concerns can we, from an upfront perspective, can we mitigate with communication by providing clarity? So people can be concerned that, oh, this automation project, people are going to lose their job. Meanwhile, maybe the automation will actually help us to be more productive, we sell more products, we make more money, we even now need more staff. But change management will help us plan end to end, before, during, and after. We identify all these stakeholders and we engage with them, and then we have a plan, and then things work more smoothly. Things will still go wrong, or may still be, there may still be some turbulence, but if you don't have a plan, you are failed. Then innovation management, how do we, when we have strategy and we have a plan, ladies and gentlemen, a strategic plan is not cast on stone. It's not cast in stone. You see, as we begin to unfold the implementation, we'll be getting new data, we'll be getting new realities, we'll be getting new feedback, and then we'll need to be what? Adjusting. We need to bring in new concepts and ideas, innovation. What are we going to do new? And let me speak quickly to innovation. There are 3-4 areas of innovation. You have product innovation, new product. A product is maybe something physical, something people can handle, can touch. Then you have service innovation. Okay, you have market innovation. Okay, you have process innovation. So those are the 4 critical areas of innovations and more. I'll say it again. Product innovation, market innovation, okay, service innovation, process innovation. For example, from an HR perspective, we need to be more innovative in our processes. Why do some of our colleagues, maybe in sales, have issues with some of the things we do in HR? Because they are hardly in the office. We make sure that our ERP is compatible with Android, for example. On their mobile phones, they could treat their approvals, they could initiate requests, and so on and so forth. Processes. Processes can we streamline? What processes can we add? So there are things like, Lean Six Sigma. We are trying to eliminate waste. We are trying to do things like concepts like project management, program management. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't be a strategic HR leader without basic, no, not basic. Don't let me make it easy for you. Intermediate to advanced project management, because things are changing and you are the driver of this change. You see, as an HR strategic leader, you are not a victim. You are the initiator of the change. The change is not happening to you. You are the driver. Last but not the least, reinforcement strategy. Ladies and gentlemen, HR is a key proponent of all things that have passed away. You need to reinforce the new culture. You need to reinforce the new ideas. You need to reinforce the new strategies so that we can get, if you don't sustain these new ideas, we won't get the results. We won't get the productivity. Some of us back then, we did, what do we call it? Remote work. And then we started getting results. Then suddenly I started hearing, oh, this remote work is not working. People are not productive. Guess what? When we started the remote work, even though some of us didn't have a choice, we put certain monitoring system in place. Guess what HR did? And line managers, we soft pedal on the monitoring process. Then productivity dipped. Then we now said remote is no longer working. No, the problem was not remote. It was the reinforcement strategy, which in this case is the monitoring, maybe daily call meetings, the WhatsApp check, the Zoom call check that we reduced. It now led to some of our employees becoming complacent, and then productivity now dips. The enforcement strategy. Ladies and gentlemen, how do you become a strategic leader? We've been speaking to it throughout this session tonight. From the beginning to develop HR techniques. Strategic leader, first and foremost, ladies, one page that will articulate how whatever program, initiative you are deploying applies and benefit all the stakeholders. How it speaks to the top line, how it speaks to the bottom line, how it even works with the cash flow, how all your stakeholders will benefit. If you try this, you will see that the memos, your approval request, the degree of approved you will get will jump up. Okay, so develop HR tactics. There are direct tactics, implementing strategies immediately. There are also indirect tactics, using other resources to support your strategies. You need to form coalition. You have to align with your finance department, both the head, director of finance, head of finance, your CFO, and don't pally only your CFO. There are multiple chains in the finance department. Sometimes in HR, we just want to pally only the anchorman. No. Maybe the person in treasury, the person in have alliances across the different spectrum of your finance department and other strategic departments. Again, there's no department that is not strategic to HR. All your support department is strategic to HR. Plan implementation. Okay, monitor performance. This is very, very critical. Okay, through surveys, interviews, or observation, and take corrective action. Evaluate performance. I've already spoken to this. Monitoring and evaluation is key. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Wynn said, human resources isn't a thing we do. Human resources is the thing that runs our business. I will re-echo it again. Steve Wynn said, and I agree, I concur, I align, that human resources is not a thing we do. It is the thing that runs our business. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, at this intersection, we are open to ask a question. All you need to do is to raise your virtual hand. Once you raise your virtual hand, I will unmute you or make you a co-host, and you'll be able to ask your questions or make your contributions. I know there are a lot of senior people on this call tonight. I have not said everything. Don't say you have said it or no. There is something I have not said that if you share with us, it will add tremendous value to this conversation. Again, I must thank sincerely Madam Oluwatoyin Sonny, who was originally supposed to take this session, and due to technical reasons, she could not. I still see her on the call. I don't know if she can hear me. She graciously shared her slides. I only added 2 slides to our 12 or 14-page slides, of course, leveraging on my own experience. Thank you also to all the people who joined early and stayed with us for a considerable amount of time before we were able to kickstart this session. Again, do you want to say something? Do you want to contribute to this conversation? Or do you want to ask questions? Feel free to say it. Okay, I can see Madam Sani. You can, if you can unmute, please say something by all means. If you can unmute, Madam Sonny, please say something. Okay, I know what to do. I'm making you. Okay. Yeah, I've made you close. You can say many things, in fact. We are with you, ma. They will come to Victoria Uba. Just hang in there. Hello, Madam Toyin. Is it me or our network?
Good evening.
Good evening, ma.
Okay, Mr.
Go ahead, ma. We can hear you, ma. So sorry for the trouble.
I think it's still my network. No problem.
Yes.
I was saying a very big thank you for hosting the session and also facilitating it. I want to thank you for stepping in. You have done a very good job all about it. And
Thank you
you
so
know,
much. Thank you so much, ma'am. Hello, ma'am. Okay. Victoria Uba. Victoria Uba, please go ahead with your contributions.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, ma'am.
Thank you so much for this section, sir. I truly appreciate it. I've learned a lot. My question is, in an organization, just like I asked the other day, that you receive instruction from above. Now, in this case, you're only asked to always give query, fire, without even being led into the old situation that brought about this. So in that case now, what do you do? Because it's kind of a tradition when it has to do with what they call theft. The next thing you hear is just lay this person off. And it's not really going down with me as an HRO because it adds to my history of that organization. Because let's say less than 2 months, I can't count the people I've queried and the people I've fired, and it's not really nice. So, what strategy do you think one should employ to advise, even though these persons are far above me? What do you think I should advise them on a better? Because less with me, I felt okay. It has to do with a lot of people. Why not just change this set of people, take them to this other aspect of the job? It's still the same thing, and just watch them than to lay them off because these are good talents. So I want to know, what strategy do you think one should employ in such a situation? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you so much for your question. Okay, and let me say quickly here that part of HR strategy is understanding organizational strategy. Part of understanding organizational strategy is understanding organizational philosophy. It is difficult to change or fight organizational philosophy. What is easy is to understand the organizational philosophy and align with it. Certain philosophies may not work with you. And then in that instance, if you know upfront, you don't even jump into bed with them. Some, as long as you are there, you just have to dance to their tune. As long as what they are telling you to do is not illegal or criminal. You understand? Because some of these people, maybe they've been managing that business for 20 years, 30 years. They will look at you, in quote, as young. They would say, where were you when we started this? However, what you need to do is to engage with 2, 3 critical stakeholders and hopefully have that engagement session. It may not be a one-off engagement at times that are not peak period to say, oh, madam, or sir, or Felix, whatever. These are the things you have observed. If we lay talent off, look at how long it takes us to develop and group this talent. Maybe it takes us 2 years. And then they do something trivial that is not based on integrity or a critical, a gross misconduct. And then we lay them off. And then we start from the scratch again. It takes us 18 months to catch up. The money lost, the opportunity cost, and so on and so forth. If you explain and you explain and you explain, you may be lucky that they will get your point and they will adjust. But if after a long while, you keep explaining and they don't get it, you are not a tree. Please relocate. Thank you. I won't say more than that. I'll quickly go to, I hope I've been able to add tiny value to you. Sarah, please, you have the floor. Your contributions, please. Sarah, you can speak, or is your hands up?
Yes, good
After
evening.
Sarah, we go to Ijoma, then we'll come to Victoria. Good evening, my sister. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the insightful section, sir. All right. So my question basically is, you spoke about understanding the strategy of the organization. HR strategy being an offshoot of the strategy of the organization. Now, I need to really differentiate or clarify. I need you to help me clarify. When we talk about the strategy of the organization, are we talking about the goals of the organization? Because there are goals, there are strategies to achieving those goals. And then each unit within the organization will then carve out their own strategies from the strategy that the organization has outlined to achieve each goal. So I just need an alignment. Is it that what HR strategy works with is the goals of the organization, or the organization sets the goals and each unit are meant to carve out their own strategy based on the general goals that the management or the organization has set? Or the organization sets both goals and strategies, maybe a broad view, it may not be tiny details of each of the strategy, it could just be key points of strategies, and then each unit goes back to, extract what theirs is and then states the how and all that on how to achieve that. I just need an alignment, a clarification around that, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, my sister, for that beautiful question. First and foremost, let me say that it is not a one size fits all. So what I'm going to say, I'm not going to say this. There are peculiarities in organizations, peculiarities in sectors, and it doesn't necessarily mean that one approach is better relative to the other approach. It is a function of the context. But let me recap the process I recommend. First and foremost, the organization comes up with the strategy. But when the organization is coming up with the strategy, HR and other stakeholders, for example, like finance, are part of the organization. You understand? So I don't want to see the organization as different and completely distinct from HR. HR is embedded, part and parcel of that organization when coming up with those strategic goals. So let me use your word, goals. But when we say goals, you can have 200 goals, 100 goals. We are talking about maybe for 2024, you may just have 5 goals. And those goals, we'll call them strategic goals or strategic imperatives. Let me give you some examples. It can be increase market share by 20%. That's goal 1. Goal 2, increase revenue by 25%. Goal 3, increase profitability by 50%. Goal 4, ensure zero regulatory infraction. 4 goals. Now, all departments have a role. If production doesn't produce, what will you sell? If marketing doesn't sell, how will revenue come in? If account and finance doesn't do certain things, how would you be able to give the appropriate discount? How would you be able to fund your production? If HR does not provide training, as I went to ensure succession planning so that when people leave or exit, and so on and so forth. So HR too now has a role to play with all the other departments. HR will play its own as HR, then HR as a business partner to finance, to production, and help them review, craft, and fine-tune their own goals. But their goals interpret and aim to exclusively execute and achieve those strategic goals. Once any department has a goal that is not speaking to any core goal, then we take it off or we modify it. There's 2 approaches. We have what we call top-down and bottom-up. Top-down is maybe from the top. They will tell the HR, these are the things you should do. Finance, these are the things you should do. In some organization, it's bottom-up. They'll just give you the strategic imperative. Then each department, functional area, will now say, based on our understanding of the strategic goals and imperative, this is what we need to do. Then there will now be an alignment session. It can be a strategy session where they look at it. Some of the things you said you will do, they will agree. Some they will agree, but will not agree with the target. Make it steeper, increase it depending on what. Some they will say you have missed out this. They will flesh it up, and all departments will have an input in each of the other departments' goals. So at the end of the day, it now becomes, some organizations even go ahead, now sign it off. It's an iterative process. Nobody knows it all. But all of you, iron sharpens iron, you collaborate, then you have a document. So if you have a strategy department, that now becomes binding. It may even be taken to the board or executive management for final ratification. I hope that with these few words of mine, I've been able to enhance your level of appreciation and clarity. Victoria, hold on. Let's take Kayode. Kayode, please, go ahead with your contributions, please.
I'm okay, sir.
Loud and clear.
Okay, sir. So I was in a strategy meeting that I went for yesterday, and now prior to that time, I spoke to my boss and said, sir, we need to do the silent things. And my boss felt that, okay, because I'm just an officer, I can't think strategically. And because of something I've exposed myself to, and I do based on my learnings also, there's exposed to things that exposed me to what was more than my grade. And because of who I am, I can't now leave my boss and now go to diet and say, oh, I want to put my voice. I can't. But my boss is not doing it. And now you said something, you said that training should be done in the first quarter. And there's a training for new line managers. That's a strategy that I went for. I'm an officer. I don't need it. I need it for my own future, but not for the bank currently. I said, let us send these 3 new staff on the strategy training. So by the time they're going to do the main bank training strategy, they know what to do and how to think strategically. He said no. He said, who's that person? I want to do it. So how do I, as a young officer, it's going to be hard, but how do I complicate my thought to a boss that feels this guy is too young to give me advice? Even though I've exposed myself to a lot of learnings, a lot of trainings that are way more than my grade. I'm exposed myself to director level kind of grade training that I'm just an officer in a bank. So how do I align myself with this?
Thank you so much. I'll give you 2 or 3 techniques. Follow them at your own risk. Okay, 2 or 3 techniques, follow them at your own risk. The first one is that you will go above your line manager. But if you go above your line manager, it can backfire. But when you go above your line manager, go above him intelligently. Don't go like you are going to report. Just go like it's a conversation. Just say, okay, what do you think about this? Maybe we can do this. And it can be over lunch. It can be maybe just meet in the walkway. It will look unplanned, spontaneous. Now you go no say you don't plan that paro. Because if you have a content leader over you and you are with him for 4 years, and the system is looking at that your leader, so to speak, or line managers, this person doesn't even have content or is not giving us value. They will over time think that is how the entire unit or department is. But when you also do it, I have done it in certain instances where I went over my line manager, and when I do that, I will tell that person that please don't tell so that I came. So that person, when they are engaging with my line manager, they won't mention me or a conversation with me, and they agree with you and don't agree with you. I tell so, don't you think you should do this and this? When my organ gets the email now or the correspondence, you will not quickly call me only come and see. MD said we should. I'll say, well, let's quickly work on it. Me too, I won't say, I won't say I was the one that went there. No. You see, there's a proverb that if you don't care who gets the credit, a lot of things can get done. Okay? You can't force your boss to respect you. With time, maybe when you leave or when he leaves and he meets other people who are not as sharp and knowledgeable, who have not paid the price to deepen their competencies and enable their capabilities, they will appreciate you. Okay? But don't stop learning. Don't stop trying to suggest, and don't get angry or irritated. Just be subtle, okay, and build a network with people above you And don't, when you do that, apply wisdom. Well, Kayode, thank you so much. I've been seeing Ijeoma's hand up, and I can't see it up currently. Notwithstanding, I go to mine. Okay, so I'll take Ijeoma. Then after Ijeoma, we take Victoria. After Victoria, we take Ngozi, and then we go to bed. All right. Oh, I can't see Ijeoma again. So let's quickly take.
I'm here. I just lowered it because you mentioned me. All right. Good evening,
okay,
Mr.
Go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. I hope I'm not taking us backward. I only wanted to, drop my perspective on the question that the first speaker asked. I think that's Victoria, right? Just wanted to respond. I hope I can.
Quickly, please, go ahead.
All right. So my assumption, Victoria, if you are listening to me, is that you are working in a place where you don't have a very robust disciplinary process. That's why somebody will ask you, to sack somebody just like that. So if that is correct, I will recommend that if it is possible, and that is part of, being strategic and adding immense value from an HR perspective, that you try and put together something that will, make reference to circumstances under which people can be, terminated, and the process by which that will happen. You can start collaborating with people. You can start getting ideas on how best to put that kind of a disciplinary policy in place, just so you do not get, they don't just walk up to you and say, exit this person. Now, that said, another part that I think it's very important is that, citing the example that you mentioned, where if the offense is related to theft or fraud or criminality, if I get your question right, I think that to a lot of businesses, that is not an acceptable thing to do and be part of, depending on the circumstance anyway. But anything that speaks to integrity issues most definitely is a dismissal offense, if I get your question right. So yes, it happens to some people, especially those working in one-man businesses that are not multinationals, or that are not very structured, where we are into this kind of dilemma. So I think that part of what we need to do is somehow, I don't know whether to use the word, to become comfortable with, playing our role as HR to discipline unwanted behaviors, or to make sure that unwanted behaviors in our business environment do not thrive. The reason is because it serves as precedence. If we now begin to condone things that are related to fraud or dishonesty, and like Mr. Oliemi mentioned, perhaps gross negligence or gross misconduct, it also speaks about us. It means that we are not really we will not be seen as doing what we are supposed to do as HR people to make sure that the organization is able to achieve its strategic objectives. So let me just leave it at that point, that one, if you are working in an environment where there is no disciplinary process that specifies clearly how issues like that to be treated, you try and start putting one together. And secondly, if definitely you are sure that the offense the person committed is related to fraud and integrity issues, I think you should get comfortable to do the needful, because it serves to have ensured that things like that don't repeat themselves in the future. Thank you very much for the opportunity to contribute, Mr. Oyemi.
Thank you so much. All right, let's take Ngozi Odukwe. Ngozi, you have the floor, please.
Hey, good evening. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you for the insightful session. And one thing that I've picked out from today is a strategic HR. I don't know. I don't want to assume that everyone here is a strategic HR by title, but it doesn't matter if we're even entry-level HR. Your strategy, whatever that defines you, it starts from what value you tend to add to the organization. Let me rephrase it. You do not need to bear the name strategic HR manager to be strategic in what you do. Sometimes what endears me to people is their ability to give me value, to give me suggestive ideas, to work with data available on their table. And when they bring it to me, I tend to understand, okay, this person would work better on a strategic position. Companies are tilting nowadays, not about I have 15 years, 20 years of experience. No. Companies prefer to work with people who will solve problems. So if you want to be the person who will be nominated as a strategic HR or whatever manager of tomorrow, it starts from today. You need to start building competencies to be that strategic person that the company will look up to and call on you when the position emerges. And again, gone are the days that people look up to organizations. Oh, my company is not doing that. It's about you. It's about you are the one at the driving seat of your career. Therefore, when you enter a place, it's important you define yourself and don't just move with what you say they do. No, study the company. Where is the company headed? If the company is a sales organization, don't pose and say, I'm HR, I'm not a salesperson. Move on with the sales. If the company is inclined toward maybe operations, and move on with the operations, but don't just stand still and say, no, I'm HR, then you alienate yourself from whatever is happening in the organization. I know there may be people who might have some other questions, but I really appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight, and I hope that we'll keep having such insightful sessions. Thank you, my brother. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma. Mr. Vincent, Fola Vincent, my brother, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you so much, Adeosun, and I want to say a big thank you to all of our colleagues that are here right now. I want to respond to questions about somebody firing and also the question about somebody thinking his idea is not where we're come by a senior HR colleagues. And I will just use it summarily. Please, it is important as HR to start building our influencing skill in terms of persuasion and effective communication is very, very important. Now, for somebody that they just ask you to fire somebody, something happened recently in an organization, and somebody called my attention to it, and I told the person what to do. Although he was thinking that it's not going to work because the person that said, go and fire that person was a very senior colleague. So I told the person that, come, you need to show, and I think Adeosun already said it there, you need to show why somebody should not be fired immediately. It's not about telling the person, no, the person can be fired. Now, this is what happened in that organization. Somebody has spent 10 years on a role, and because there was his insubordination with his line manager, so the line manager sent the query, and the next thing that the line manager of the line manager said that, see, sack that person. Then when that happened, they have to send it to HR. Then one of the person in HR now said that, come, we can't follow that process. It could lead to legal matters, and it could exactly what I told them that it can actually lead to. So there was an HR person that actually have to talk to this person is like non-necessary person. When it asks you to do something, you just have to do it. But he told the person that, come, number one, it can affect our reputation. Then number two, if this person go to the court of law, we can lose some kind of money. And immediately the no-nonsense person just said, oh, that's true. So let's put the person on, PIP. And they put this person on PIP. And as I speak to you now, the guy is doing well. And imagine if they got somebody with 10 years on a roll, imagine just sack the person like that, simply because there was an integration between him and a line manager. It would have been a waste of resources and it wouldn't be fine. So you have to find a way to influence. It is very important. And I will tell you how to do that. Very simple. Somebody like me, when I'm going to a meeting, I prepare as if I am the head of that department, or probably I am probably I'm the CEO of that place. You'll be so surprised by the time you begin to see my notes and my PowerPoint, such a way that just to prove a point. Even before I go, I have already sent it to the team. This is what I want to talk about. So we have to find a way to be persuasive. And when we are persuasive, let's show data around our opinion, so that without people seeing us, by the time they read our PowerPoint, they will say, oh, that's good. And they will also want to listen to you, even in a meeting. So let's go strategically. Thank God we are talking about strategy. Don't just go anyhow to a meeting. Prepare your slide. If you have an idea, send it ahead. I want to talk about this in our meeting, but I feel that I should share these PowerPoints to you. I feel that I should share this thing to you. By the time you have shared it ahead, and by the time you want to talk about it, they will definitely listen to you. So I know that influencing up can be difficult, but it is something that is achievable. Read books, think about how to do it, then develop new strategy, and it's going to work. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. We go to Victoria Abimbala now. Vicky, you have the floor. Okay. While we are waiting for Vicky, Rachel.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. Good evening. I just have a question. So I thank you for the session, and thank you for all the examples you gave regarding different strategies. I just want to ask, in an organization where you are a new person and there is so much indiscipline around, the staffs are so the staff members are so, just nonchalant attitude, just so not disciplined, despite that they have, a leader who takes no nonsense and handle them with iron hand, but they are not really, like, they're not doing well when it comes to discipline. What are the strategies you think you can use when the leader wants you to inculcate the same iron hand that he has been using? Of course, which you're seeing that, of course, you have the characteristics of course, you have more of that iron hand to give you. That's what he wants, but you are just like trying to think about it, that if this could work, it could have worked for them. But well, after you talk to them and shout at them and all, by the time they get out of your office, they are grumbling, or probably they are making jest of you and making jokes about how you talk and all. So what other strategy do you think somebody can bring on board in this kind of environment? Thank you. And the second question is, what strategy do you think somebody, an HR, can bring on board to like monitor, or should I say supervise, or bring a change on board in a branch where you're not physically present, but you are required to bring a change on board? It also has to do with indiscipline as well. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Rachel, Victoria. Thank God we have a direct relationship. And I want to assure you, we won't respond to those questions tonight because of time. But we have like 2 or 3 sessions coming up, and you are privy to this. Please confirm you understand what I'm talking about. So those sessions will deal with your issues around indiscipline and the likes holistically. And those sessions are just a few weeks ahead. Please be patient, okay? Let's go on to Rachel, and that will be the last comment or feedback for tonight because of time. Rachel, please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. Thank you so much for the session. It's been insightful. I have part of the last speaker's question. It's part of my question, because when you are new, I'm thinking if you are new in an organization and they have a culture that is not very okay for employees and all of that, and then you have to be the one implementing it with an iron hand, and then you are the bad person and all of that. I would really look forward to when that session will come about in discipline. Now, also, Mrs. Ngozi, I believe when she was speaking, she said something about if you're an HR and you are in an organization that is sales-driven or operations-driven, then you have to fall in line. You do not say that you are just an HR person. That was actually why I raised my hand, because it's something that I am currently dealing with at this moment. I joined an organization as an HR, and then it's sales-driven, and everybody has to do sales. Meanwhile, it's not in my employment contract, and I do not have competencies for it. And it is now something that will be used for my performance review. So I am in a situation where, how am I going to get into doing this thing that the organization is doing, everybody's doing? And if you are the HR, in fact, in one of the weekly meetings, one of the executives said, you are the HR, your department is supposed to be leading with everything else that is happening. And I'm wondering, how am I going to lead in this when I don't even know how I'm going to fit and how I'm supposed to start? And even the people who are already doing it are not okay with the system. How do I manage situations like this? So I really would like if the commenter who said something about it could elaborate on how to manage situations like this, or you, sir, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your question. I will just respond to it briefly. There are 2 sides to it. One side is if you want all employees, for example, to be involved in sales, it's good that we are upfront. I won't mention it, but let me mention a sector. Banking generally, it doesn't matter whether you're in HR or in sales, you will have sales targets. The only thing is that maybe the sales target of an HR person may be low relative to maybe the sales target of somebody that is in core sales. Even if you're in operations, they believe that even outside work, maybe in church, in mosque, in parties, you meet people and you should reach out and bring, you have friends, colleagues, or student association, people in your space, and you should try and bring them to patronize the organization. Personally, I don't believe that you should mandatorily enforce that all staff should be selling. But I believe that as a staff, even if you don't have a sales target, you should attempt, endeavor, strive to sell. And I know some of us will say, oh, we are not extroverted and introverts, but there are tools at our disposal. For example, your DP, yes, it's your personal DP, but you can put your company product. And somebody will just come and chat you and say, oh, you do this, 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 and this. And you can connect them to a proper salesperson. And you get some recognition out of it. But what I want, and I recommend is, if you want sales to be an integral part of all employees, even from advertising the job vacancy to giving them their offer, let it be in black and white, so that an HR person who is coming from an organization where they are measured strictly by their HR deliverables will not come and join you, and then you'll be feeling, you will not be able to confirm them because they couldn't sell. It will lead to some misalignment and a breach of trust and contract. But if you are upfront, that's or even though you are coming for HR, you will still have 10 million naira weekly target, 2 billion naira target, and some HR are okay with it. Some HR have business development combined with what they do. But while you are there, attempt to sell. It may not be as difficult as you think. On the other hand, you may begin to plan your exit to an institution that does not have sales as part of the function they will give you. But you don't know where you'll be tomorrow. If you end up as the MD, you still have to sell, or a C-level HR. You'll still one way or the other attempt to sell your company products. I hope you've been helpful. Thank you so much. Again, if you check the YouTube channel, Oluyemi Adeosun, you will see some sessions dedicated to some of the questions we are asking. And if you check the sessions we have rolled out for Q1, it will also address some of the questions we have asked so that we can focus on the meat of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, today has been a night. Thank you once again, Mrs. Oluwatoyin Sonny, and thank you to the over 100 people who joined this session. Apologies to those who joined or attempted to join but couldn't make it because of the maximum size of 100, which is our constraint. Ladies and gentlemen, please do have a productive week and keep winning. Good night. Bye for now.